Hello, and welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, a podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I am, what am I? I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the Is the Pictures podcast.
My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write and podcast for In Session Film. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
And I'm Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I do some movie stuff, and I'm also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. Hey-ya.
Yeah. And I'm glad to be back with you two to talk about
Welcome back.
As we always do. Thank you. Before we get to this week's movies, I'll mention that over on our Patreon this week, we are talking about the winner of our summer movies and winter poll. And the winner was the 2013 film, The Way, Way Back. We had a fun conversation about that. So if you're a patron, check that out. If you're not a patron, please consider joining. For $5 a month, you get weekly bonus episodes like that one. You also get access to our back catalog, which has hundreds of bonus episodes. And you get to vote in monthly polls like the one I just mentioned. And, we'll have one coming up in a couple weeks. And I think that's all I need to say other than to thank our sponsor patron, Heather Sachs. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Appreciate your support. All right, on to this week's movies. So we have 3 movies we're going to be talking about. First, we're going to hear about Hamnet. Next, we're going to talk about One Battle After Another. And then we're going to wrap with It Was Just an Accident. So, Megan, you saw Hamnet. This is written and directed by Chloe Zhao. And also written by Maggie O'Farrell. And we've got Jesse Buckley, Paul Mescal, and... who else is in this?
Emily
Alwyn,
Watson.
looks like Emily Watson.
Joe Alwyn. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's all I know because I haven't seen it. And I'll give the one sentence IMDb summary and then I'll let you take it away. So, a powerful story of love and loss that inspired the creation of Shakespeare's timeless masterpiece, Hamlet.
Yeah, that really gives you nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't read the novel, or if you don't know the novel, or if you don't know the backstory, that really is not giving you anything. Mm-hmm. And it really is not preparing you for the heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching story that unfolds. And it's pretty early on that it foreshadows that something terrible is going to happen. Again, if you don't know the story, you might not realize how deeply terrible what's coming is what's coming, and it's terrible. Anyway, just to get this out of the way, a child dies. A 10-year-old, 11-year-old child dies, and most of the movie is about the grief of that. So Jessie Buckley plays Agnes, and she falls in love with Paul Mescal's William, but you actually don't know it's William Shakespeare, but you don't know his name. They don't say it until at least halfway through the film. And I'm not entirely sure why they're being coy with it, but they are. And Agnes is based on Anne Hathaway, not the actress, but Anne Hathaway, the actual person. But I guess she was also known as Agnes too. And the movie starts off with this text on screen about how Hamnet is also Hamlet and how their names were interchangeable. And so that's a part of the film as well. And yeah, so Agnes falls in love, like I said, with William, and she's the eldest daughter of this family, and she's kind of this wild woman who likes to hang out in the woods, and she does kind of witchy stuff, and she likes to grind herbs, and when the movie opens, you find her curled up in like a little ball under a tree asleep, and like her real mother, because she has a stepmother, her real mother like taught her these kind of like woodsy ways, these pagan ways, and taught her brother that too, who's played by Joe Alwyn. And yeah, so she falls in love with William, and he is the tutor to kids and in town, and he's paying off his father's debts, and so that's why he's there. And so they fall in love, and they have some sex, some hot sex on a table in the house. And then she gets pregnant. But before she gets pregnant, he's like, "We're gonna get married," and he's like so enamored with her. And so then she goes to his parents' house to say, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And William's mother's played by Emily Watson. And she's like, "Absolutely not. You're not marrying her. Like, she's too old and she's too wild." And he's like, "We're doing it. We're getting married." And so anyway, so they get married and they have a baby. Well, they have the baby and it's a daughter. And then she's convinced they're going to have another baby because she has foreseen that at her deathbed, 2 of her children will be there. And so she gets pregnant again and she's very excited. But William has to go away and he's got a job in London being a playwright. And she's living with his family. And her first child, their daughter, she had in the woods. She went out into the woods and was by herself and gave birth in the woods. And so she starts to go into labor and she's on her way to go to the woods again. And her mother-in-law is like, "Absolutely not. You're not going to the woods," and blocks her. And it's this traumatic scene where Agnes is screaming, "I need to go to the woods. My baby can't die." And so I'm like, oh my God, is this where the baby dies? But no, the baby does not die here. And surprise, she has twins. And so she has a daughter and a son. And the daughter, the second twin, isn't breathing when she first comes out. I'm like, oh my God, is this the dead baby? I'm like, when is this? I know it's coming. And I'm like, oh my God, when is it happening? So she's distraught that obviously her child's not breathing, but then they get the baby to breathe. The baby is fine. And she's like, oh, thank God. But then she is paranoid that something terrible is going to happen to her daughter. So she won't go to London with William. She keeps coming up with excuses like, no, she needs to get stronger. No, it's too cold. No, we'll wait until it's springtime. Kind of all these excuses. So then we fast forward and her oldest is I don't know, 13, 14. And the 2 little ones, the 2 twins are 10 or 11. And then the daughter twin gets sick. And then there's this really strange scene where the son talks about swapping places. The twin, he's like, "I'll swap places with you so you can stay here." And then he dies. And so it's this wrenching, awful scene. And so Agnes is beside herself, of course, because she's grieving. And the rest of the film is her being destroyed, angry, just full of rage and grief at everyone and everything. And William he feels he needs to go to work and he needs to pursue his passion and he needs to write his plays. And so fast forward to the end of the film and he has a huge house in oh my God, it's not Sussex. I can't think of the town. Thank you, Stratford. And he has the hugest house in Stratford, and which he's been telling Agnes the whole time, you got to come to and bring the family. So Agnes goes, she travels with her brother, Joe Alwyn, and they're there and they see his place where he's living and there's this tiny little apartment and they're like, what is he doing living in this tiny little apartment when he's got the biggest house? And the house has been the Globe Theater. And so it's this, an enormous theater. And so they go and they see the production of Hamlet, and Agnes is beside herself because the actor who portrays Hamlet looks like an older version of what her son would arguably look like. And that is intentional because it's played, the child of hers that died is the brother of the guy who plays Hamlet in this production. And so it's all about how William is working through his grief and he channeled that grief into writing Hamlet. And Agnes, watching this production, is able to work through her grief, seeing this happen in this really kind of tender moment on screen. Because at first she's like yelling, like, don't say my son's name, and people are shushing her. But then there's kind of this tender moment where Hamlet is dying on stage and she reaches out for him, and so does everyone around her. And it's not necessarily a plausible scene, but this movie is not working in plausibilities, in that there's kind of mysticism and things working in this kind of fantastical realms a little bit. So yeah. And that's basically the film. It's all about grief and how you move through grief. And Jessie Buckley gives a ferocious performance. She is excellent. Paul Mescal is fantastic. Joe Alwyn, who I have not seen in many things, but he is great here. Like, he's a really great supporting performer. Emily Watson is great. The kid who dies, Jacoby Jupe or Jupe.
The kid who
dies, Hamnet. The kid who's Hamnet. He's wonderful. He's so good. And the kids, their 3 kids are all really great. They're all like, they have this lovely relationship. They all play together. They put on performances. It's a really nurturing environment, and it's lovely to see. But the kids all give great performances. This looks gorgeous, very lush. The color palette, the cinematography, lots of scenes in the sunny, sun-dappled forest. So very verdant. It's really lovely to watch. The only thing I will have to say that I guess that's negative is that I wish some of the characters had more to them. But yeah, and this didn't destroy me the way I thought it would, but it is a sad, sad movie. And it's really, really well done. And I really love Chloe Zhao as a filmmaker, and I think this is a really great film. But it's a doozy.
Yeah,
it's hard to watch.
Like it.
Yeah.
Kind of glad I didn't see it, honestly.
Yeah. It's I don't normally say this, it's a film I wouldn't recommend, but I wouldn't recommend, and again, unless you know going in what you're going for, or unless you've read the book, or you you can handle it. Because yeah, it's not an easy watch.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's worth watching if you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you were saying when we were off mic, you were like, I don't know if you guys are going to want to hear about it. I was like, yeah, I'm like, I think I don't want to see a movie about child death and coping with it, but I can handle hearing about it, and I'm glad I got the breakdown from you.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the only other thing I want to say about this is that I've seen some reviews and chatter that talk about how Agnes is like the villain of the year, or the first Oscar villain, or something like that. And I was like, what? And I guess there are people who think she's absolutely despicable and horrendous to William. And it's so funny because that's not my read on her at all. Like, she gets pissed off that he's leaving. And because she's like, you should be here. You should have been here. You should be here. And whether she's right or wrong, she's speaking out of grief. She's beside herself. And, people do wacky things and say wild things when they are grieving. And so I love that we get to see a woman who is messy, who is complicated, who is working through her pain and through her rage. So I don't see her as a villain at all. I think she's incredible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just based on your description, I don't really see the villain angle, but
right.
I guess because she's getting in the way of his genius or something.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. Which
People
I mean,
are fucking weird,
Well, that's true. But I mean, it is another thing I saw was like somebody pointing out that it's a trope that a lot of films fall into, and that is a fair criticism, because a lot of films do fall into that. But I don't think that's what's happening here. I think her concerns are legitimate, and then when she sees the play, it makes sense. And, again, a lot of people have made criticisms about like, it's too reductionist. Like, oh, he was grieving his dead child, so then he poured that into Hamlet. And it's, sure, I'm sure that's not what happened as a 1-to-1 comparison. A movie can only do so much and only explore so much. And when you have a prolific, infamous writer like that, maybe it does come off a little bit reductionist, but I think it's fascinating to see what pain and grief how it can shape you and shape your art, and how different people work through that pain. So I think in that regard, it definitely works.
All right, so let's move on then to One Battle After Another, which is the latest Paul Thomas Anderson movie, which is based on a Thomas Pynchon novel, if I'm remembering correctly.
I mean, sort of.
Yeah, very loosely based.
Yeah.
Very loosely based. And it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, Wood Harris, Alana Haim, and yeah, it's pretty stacked cast, I would say. And let's see. So how am I going to describe this movie? Let's see what IMDb says, and then I'll I'll do my best, because I know of the three of us, I've seen this the most recently, but there's definitely a lot that happens here. So here's what IMDb says. When their evil enemy resurfaces after 16 years, a group of ex-revolutionaries reunite to rescue the daughter of one of their own. Yes, kinda.
I mean, it's bigger than that, I think.
Yeah, it's bigger than that. There's like an entire prologue to this movie that's like this group of revolutionaries. They call themselves the French 75, and they're like, we gotta fuck up the world order, and we gotta do like really radical shit. We gotta like blow some shit up. We gotta, like, the opening scene of the film is they're like raiding one of those like detention camps, and they're like freeing people who are being detained by, I don't know, does the movie even say it's like ICE or something like that, but basically like they're people being detained, and they're like, let's free them and let's like stir up some shit. So like you see all of this like backstory of like all the stuff they're doing. They're blowing shit up, they're making statements, they're like really trying to shake up the world order and like raise awareness about all the fucked up shit happening in the United States and that the US government's doing. And at the center of it, you have Bob and Perfidia, and they're like a wild and crazy couple. Like, she's like, let's fuck while this bomb goes off, and he's like, maybe let's not do that because we don't get blown up too. And Leo DiCaprio, he's the bomb guy. And so he's blowing all the shit up, and she's leading this entire revolutionary group, and they're having a lot of sex, and she gets pregnant. And she also has this affair with this Colonel Stephen Lockjaw, played by Sean Penn, who she like meets in the opening scene. She like holds him at gunpoint, and he gets turned on by it. That is probably one of the weirdest scenes. I was like, this movie came out the gate like very sexual very quickly, and I was like, okay, this movie, she's like commanding him to get a boner, and then like marching him out at gunpoint with his boner. Like, okay, this is the kind of movie that I'm in for. So you see like the whole backstory of what the group has been doing, and then so after they have the kid, Bob is like, okay, like we got to give this shit up. We got a kid we got to take care of. And Perfidia's like, no, like I want to go out there and keep doing what I'm doing. So she leaves and like has this whole bank robbery, and she gets captured, and other people like escape, but she's looking at staring down the a pretty lengthy prison sentence, and she decides to like turn state's evidence and go in the witness protection program. So like a lot of the other people in the crew are like rounded up and arrested, and she skips town like after going into witness protection, and like disappears into Mexico. And then like fast forward 16 years, and Bob is raising his daughter, and they live in this like remote area that's also like a sanctuary city with a lot of like people being brought through there that are being protected from the authorities. And what happens? Sean Penn, the Lockjaw, decides that he needs to like find out if this girl is his daughter, and so he launches this like crazy operation to like take her and possibly either kill or capture Bob as well. And so the revolutionaries, the like remainder of the group that's still like working, catches wind of this and launches their own like counter operation to try and rescue them. And so the movie like basically turns into this like fast-paced cat and mouse thrillery kind of thing where they're like trying to evade Lockjaw and then trying to, I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot that happens in this movie, and I don't know if either of you remember anything else to be able to help fill in the gaps. But basically, like Bob and his daughter, they get separated, and she is taken in by Deandra, who's played by Regina Hall, who's one of the people who didn't get busted, and she tries to like take her to this like place that's like it's like a pot farm that's run by like gun-toting nuns.
Yep.
And he's just fumbling around, like trying to make his way out there with the help of Benicio del Toro, who's like a local. He's the daughter's sensei at like her martial arts studio, but then he's also leading this whole like underground railroad for people, and so he's like helping Bob escape, but also helping other people escape. And this like wacky comedy of errors like begins where like Bob has become like this massive stoner, and so he's like doesn't remember like any of the things that are like part of the like the codes that he's supposed to remember, like when they're like getting him on the phone and he's like needs the rendezvous point, he's like, I don't fucking remember any of this shit. And yeah, I think that's about as much as I'm remembering at the moment. But it ends up coming down to the point where let's see, Lockjaw finds out that she is his daughter and like is taking her to like he's like leaving her with somebody to like kill her, but then she saves herself, and then also Bob ends up like coming to get her at the same time, and they end up escaping together while also fighting off this like, but they're like basically what, like neo-Nazis? They call themselves like the followers.
They're white supremacists.
White supremacists, yeah.
The Christmas
like,
adventurers.
The Christmas adventurers, where they hail Saint Nick or whatever is their like thing that they say to each other.
Which is the whole reason he wants to get her, is because
he can't have a black child. Yeah,
right, exactly.
That's right. Yeah, he can't join them, and he's like in the process of like applying to join them, and so they send some guy to kill him, and they shoot Lockjaw in the face, but he somehow manages to survive it, and then like goes back to like the group and continues his application, and then they end up like gassing him to death.
Yeah, he gets poisoned in what is supposed to be what he's told will be his office by Jim Downey. Isn't that Jim Downey from Saturday Night Live and also Billy Madison, who we're all dumber for having listened to or whatever?
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, right. So every country I go to that isn't the United States, I always see a movie there because I want to know what it's like to see a movie in a different country. And I got to tell you, seeing a movie in Japan, at least the theater I went to, it's a lot like seeing a movie in the US, except they're much, much cleaner.
That's been my experience too.
And like, it was kind of fun after the movie to see like every patron carrying their trash out and like stacking their, some of the packages that you can get for food are so big that they've got like those trays with like the cup holders in the tray. So
I love those.
Yeah, I did not have one of those. I had, some Sour Patch Kids and whatever the Japanese version of Diet Coke is. But yeah, this movie I found kind of confounding. I run hot
That's
and
a
cold.
good way to describe it.
Yeah, I run hot and cold on Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, really love Hard Eight, really hate Boogie Nights, really hate Magnolia, really hate Punch Drunk Love, and then There Will Be Blood. I was like, ooh, this is something. I like this. And then The Master, Inherent Vice, I kind of like. Phantom Thread is very good. I really like Licorice Pizza. And then this one, I'm just kind of like, I just don't know what this movie is. And in that way, it feels like a Pynchon novel. Because if you've ever read any of his books, sometimes you put him down and you go, the fuck am I reading? I actually don't understand what's happening in this narrative. Everybody's speaking English. They're all in places that I've heard of, but I have no idea what the fuck is going on. And just the overlapping narratives here, just there's nothing hard to follow. It's just I feel like the movie just didn't really have a focus in a strange way, and it really didn't do like it didn't. I think it didn't tie in the comedy that Thomas Anderson can do pretty well sometimes with the drama. Like a lot of Phantom Thread is very funny, but it's also a very serious drama, you know? And then you have this movie, which kind of feels like a comedy, but then you've got these weird fucking racists, but of course they're portrayed to be buffoons because they are, but at the same time, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it goes to some pretty grim places. For a movie that I think could call itself a dark comedy in places, it goes to some like really dark places that I'm like, it's bouncing up against a lot of different genres, and to your point, I don't know how effectively it straddles a lot of those lines.
Yeah, like the scene when the hitman drops off, you know, the daughter with like those guys, those hitmen or whatever they are, militia, I'm not even sure, and they're going to clearly going to kill her, maybe do other horrible things to her first. I don't know. And then you sit with the fucking other hitman who like took her over there, and he's like, not today, or whatever he says. And then he shoots everybody, and then she has to go back and get his keys from his dead body. I mean, it is the strangest, you know.
It's weirdly gruesome in places.
Yeah. But it's not gruesome like in, I mean, when you think about a movie like RoboCop, which is just so, even now, watching it nearly 40 years later, I cannot believe the violence in that fucking movie. But for some reason, even though it's horrific, the satire of it and the tone of it, it just all kind of works as a balancing act. Whereas I think in a movie like this, which is not a satire, but I mean, what is Benicio del Toro doing in this movie aside from being like a very strange, charismatic comic relief? But like, what's he doing in here? Like, his character's just here, and then he does this thing, and he doesn't really help. I mean, he kind of helps Bob out, but like, Bob is such an idiot that, you know, like, and then he's just gone, and he just disappears for the rest of the movie. And you're like, wait a minute, it's fucking Benicio del Toro. What are you doing? I don't know. I just found this to be all over the place. So, but not good or bad. I'm just kind of like, when I watched it, I was like, oh, well, I mean, it is a movie. You know, it does.
It is a movie.
It does things that movies do. Not really sure what the point of shooting this in VistaVision was. But that's okay. I mean, I'm always a fan of shooting things on film instead of a digital medium. So I don't know. Megan, how about you? Do you remember it very well?
I do, and I fucking love it. I think it's amazing. I have a very different opinion of it than you, because I don't think it's tonally jarring. I think it's chaotic.
Yes.
But to me, that doesn't necessarily mean it's tonally jarring. I think it all makes sense. To me, it all worked. I could see how it, you know, wouldn't work for everybody, but for me, it worked. It had me by the throat from the jump. I was here for it. And I think a large reason why is I think the editing is spectacular. I think the cinematography is spectacular. And I think the performances are outstanding. Particularly, Teyana Taylor is absolutely charismatic and magnetic. Love her. I wanted to see more of her. I think Regina Hall is wildly underused because she's such a great actor. And here she's not given a ton to do. I think Benicio del Toro, much to your point, Dave, you're like, what is he doing here? I love that. I love that we just get this snippet of him. And to me, that character, we know so little about him, but I'm watching and I'm like, I know everything about this character just based on the little snippets we get and based on the way he's acting this character. And I love that. I love the weirdly humorous moments where Bob keeps calling him sensei, even though he's not his sensei.
Right, yeah.
But like, and he's relying on him. And I love that I wish this film actually went wilder and went harder in its kind of radical politics, because I love that it's so disruptive right from the start, in that they are raiding ICE detention camps, or essentially these detention camps that are horrible, these prisons for immigrants, which is gross. And then, but also, Perfidia Beverly Hills is on a phone and she's threatening a politician, saying, "We're going to blow you up if you vote against, like, if you vote for this abortion ban." And I'm like, yes, all right. And so I am very much here for seeing that. But it's also kind of interesting to fast forward and see the 15 years later and how Bob isn't involved at all in anything radical. But it's also interesting to see like who stayed in kind of the underground political movement and who didn't. And so I found that utterly fascinating. And I also think Chase Infinity as his daughter Willa is astounding. I'm like, what a
great.
fantastic performance right out of the gate. I want to see more from her. And so for me, this film, I was riveted for almost 3 hours long. And it was an adrenaline rush, but it's got a lot of ideas. And I don't know if they all work, because I think there's some things like the issues of race could have been delved into more, although I don't know if Paul Thomas Anderson is maybe the best person to tackle those topics. But I love the characters. I love what's happening. I love the visuals. I love the pacing. I loved almost everything about this. I thought it was great.
Okay, listeners. I'm not sure what we did in post-production, but I will take a pause for a moment and say that unfortunately Dave had to leave, so we couldn't finish the rest of the episode. So I guess I'll try to pick up where we were. Megan, you were just asking me what I thought about
yes.
one battle after another.
Yes.
Yeah. It was definitely a mixed bag for me. I don't know that I loved the prologue with all of the backstory. Like, I don't know, something about that just felt like too long-winded to me. I didn't think it was like bad storytelling, but I just felt like it was like just too much before we got to like the meat of like the current storyline. But once the movie just kind of settled into what I felt like it was going to be, I really was enjoying it and all of its like weirdness, like this whole scenario with Bob and his daughter and the separation and him running around just like clueless and, you know, being dragged around by Benicio del Toro. And I did find a lot of the comedy worked for me, like particularly when he was like calling up trying to ask about the rendezvous and he's like, "I can't remember the code," and the guy's like being like, "I'm not gonna tell you unless you tell me what time it is," and he's like, "I am stoned, this is 16 years ago, I don't remember," and then he gets to the point where he has to ask for the supervisor. I love that there's like the revolutionaries have a tech support line with a supervisor. That he gets to, and then the supervisor gives him a code he can remember, and that is just that whole storyline to me, I thought was fucking hilarious.
I know. I love that they keep going back to it. Like we'll take a break, then go back to it, then take a break and go back to it. And I particularly love when he's like screaming at the guy and the guy on the other end is like, "Excuse me, I don't feel safe. This is like, this is something like you're violating my audio boundaries or something like that." And he's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like, yeah, no, that was great.
Yeah. So that was fun. Like, and I feel like it was sufficiently like moving. It was action packed through like the rest of the movie. And so it was definitely holding my attention despite its length. And I liked Leonardo DiCaprio. I liked, would you say the actress that played his daughter?
Chase Infinity.
Chase Infinity. I thought she was great. Benicio del Toro in his moments, like when he's he's got to get Bob to jump out of the car, and he's like, Bob is just not jumping out of the car, and so he just like basically swerves the car to knock him out.
Mhm.
That was really funny. The part where he gets pulled over for drunk driving, and they're like, "Have you been drinking?" And he's like, "Yeah, I had a few beers, a few small beers," I think is what he says. And they're
Mhm.
like, "What does that even mean?" Like, you could see the sobriety test. Sean Penn, I mean, we know the guy is like nuts in real life, and so I'm just like, okay, it feels a little on the nose to have him play such an unhinged, like gross, abusive, racist character. I was kind of like, I just felt like I was cringing every time I saw him on screen, but he was like effective in his role as being that guy, that like
Disgusting. Yeah.
disgusting, gross, like soldier character. So yeah, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, he gets shot in the face. Good. And I'm like, oh, he's still alive. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, but he gets gassed to death.
I know, but I
he
feel like it
dies.
would have been just as effective to me if he just got shot in the face and dispensed in that way. Like, I didn't need him to come back just to get killed by the neo-Nazis.
No, but I hear you. I felt that way too. But I read this really great argument where someone was like, no, you need that moment to show how desperate he is to be accepted by these neo-Nazis and these white supremacists. And so, I mean, because that's like really driving him in everything he does. So, on that front, I'm like, okay, I'm with it. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Much like I know the prologue didn't work for you. I feel the complete opposite. Like, I kind of wish the whole movie, in a weird way, because I love the rest of the movie too, but I almost wish the prologue had gone on longer because I was so in, I was so hooked. But I think you do need that prologue in order to fully understand the characters and their journeys afterwards. So I think even though it's so annoying, Lockjaw's arc, and it does feel so redundant, like, oh God, what are we doing? It kind of
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, I understand that narrative choice.
Yeah, I think I just felt weary by the runtime by that point. I was like, do we really need to keep dragging this on? Because I'm like, that's to me, I'm more interested in like what's next for Bob and his daughter, and like the whole thing about the letter from the mom. I thought was like really compelling.
Yes.
Like getting that kind of like catharsis there. Because you're left wondering, like, what is she thinking about them? Is she thinking about her daughter this entire time? Did she just like fuck off to Mexico and just like not care? And so it was nice to actually like get that moment. I was like, okay, I'm on board with like sticking around to get that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Dave. I feel very hot and cold on Paul Thomas Anderson, and I'm surprised how much of this worked for me. Even though on the whole, I'm kind of like, I don't really know whether I didn't hate it for sure. I think I liked it. I don't think I loved it.
Yeah, I loved the shit out of this, and I saw this about a month ago, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it. And also, I saw this in the theater, and because I'm not sure if you saw it in the theater, if you saw it at home.
Yeah, I watched it at home.
Yeah, and watching this in the theater, sometimes you get antsy when you have a really long movie, but nope, I was hooked. I was locked in. It was great seeing it on the big screen. Like, I know everybody talks about the chase scene, but it really is something special that where you see the hills and it's like one car
the
goes
white
up,
knuckle
the other
car
goes down.
chasing.
Yes.
Yeah, that scene.
So good.
So intense. Such a nail biter. When she's like escaped the hitman and she's like driving and she just keeps like looking back over her shoulder the entire time, and that guy is like gaining on. Oh my god, that whole part of the movie was like, for me, that whole section was like A+ movie.
Yeah.
I was really invested in that part of it. I think that's when I was like the most locked into this movie and just like, oh my god, this is so good. This is so well done.
Yeah. Well, I also think she's such a captivating actor, and I really kind of wanted to know more about her character and how she's had to be this person who's so put together, and like she's a good student and she gets herself places, and like kind of raised herself because Bob is such a fuck up. And I
Right.
will say, I'm not the first person to point this out. I do kind of love this era of Leonardo DiCaprio capitalizing on bumbling white men who suck, like who are not
Mhm.
very competent. And that's like he's probably the one I like, well, aside from Sean Penn, he's the one I like the least here, but he's still doing a really good job. Like he's still a great
Mhm.
actor. But I kind of love how ineffectual he is, but he's still
Oh, yeah.
he's still so determined and so committed to get his daughter, which is, very lovely, of course. But yeah,
Mhm.
but I think she's great. So I really wanted to see more of her. But yeah, but so many of the other characters, I'm like, I want to see more of them. Like I would have loved to have seen more of Tiana Taylor. I would have loved to have seen more of Regina Hall. But yeah, but that chase scene is, I think, what this film does, like when it's at its best.
Mhm. Yeah, and that moment is really effective when she's like climbed out of the car and she's gunned that guy down. She's got a gun trained
Yes.
on the road, and her dad comes up
Ah,
and she's like, "I'm gonna need the code from you." She's looking
yes.
at her dad. She knows it's her dad. Her gun is trained on him, but she's like, "I'm still gonna need the code."
Yeah. Well, I know that's so that scene too, when like kind of related, when Regina Hall comes in and
Mhm.
she gives the code and she's like, "Oh my God." Like, cuz I don't think she ever thought it would actually
Be
ever
real.
happen.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so like that scene is so tense, but also kind of sad because it's like, oh shit, this is a moment she's been preparing for, that her father's
Mhm.
kind of drilled into her, like, you've got to take this device, you got to know the code, and here it is. So it's a lot of pressure to put on her shoulders at such a young age too.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I do really like that at the end they're kind of dialed back, like Bob is dialed back in, and she's, invested in kind of doing these underground political movement maneuvers.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Anything else we want to say about One Battle After Another?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, the score. I loved the score.
I'm trying to remember the score. I feel like I probably liked it, but I'm having a hard time thinking about it right at this moment.
That is fair.
All right. So then let's tackle our last film. It was Just an Accident, which is the latest from writer director Jafar Panahi. And oh my god, this was this IMDb. A small mishap triggers a chain of ever-growing problems. No.
Fuck you, IMDb. That
Yeah,
is wow.
that is an
That-
unacceptable plot
No,
summary.
that is underplaying it to infinity. Like that's absurd.
Yeah. Also, like the plot summary on IMDb that somebody wrote is like a spoiler. So basically, let me attempt to bridge the gap between these two. So you see this family, they're driving in the middle of the night. It's a dad and a mom and a daughter, and the dad hits a dog with the car and kills it. And not an auspicious start to the movie for animal fans.
Mm-mm.
So then he has to take his car to, and this is in Iran, by the way. probably should preface that also. He takes his car to this garage to get it fixed in the middle of the night, and this guy offers to help him, and this other guy who I think he owns the garage, Vahid, he overhears the man talking, and he realizes that it's this guy, Egbal, who was his tormentor, an interrogator in prison. He also does he also hear his prosthetic leg in that scene, or is it just
Yes.
that he hears his voice? Yeah, so he hears the prosthetic leg, he hears the voice, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's Iqbal." And so he follows him, and then the next day he kidnaps him. And he drives him out to the middle of the desert and says, like, "I know who you are. Like, I'm going to kill you and bury you in the desert for like your crimes." And the guy's like, "No, I'm not that guy. Look at my leg. My scars are too new. It can't be me. You're just taking an innocent guy." Like, also should mention that his wife is pregnant, like, and can have the kid probably like any day. And so he's like, "Please don't do it. Like, I'm not who you think I am. It's mistaken identity." So then Vahid is like, okay, shit, maybe I do have the wrong guy. So then he throws him like in a trunk in his van and starts driving him around to other people he knew were also in prison and interrogated, and tortured by this guy to be like, do I have the right guy? And so like he first sees this woman who's like a photographer taking wedding photos, and then it turned out the bride was also like, tortured by him. So he just starts like collecting people to help try to like identify this guy, and that's like a comedy of errors. And then somewhere in there, his wife like goes into labor or something, and the daughter like calls the phone, and they hear the call, and so they're like, oh shit, we can't just like let this woman like die. This like daughter's all alone with the mother. So they go and get the mother and take her to the hospital, and like they're there like waiting for her to give birth, and they're like, okay, great, she gave birth, like the son is okay, she's okay, let's go back and figure out what to do. And then like a couple people in the party are just kind of like frustrated, and they're just like, all right, I'm kind of out of here, like what are you guys doing? Like I thought we were gonna like get revenge, I thought we were gonna like give deliver justice to this guy. What are you doing? You're like helping his wife and helping his kid. And so the remaining two people, Wahid and what's her name,
Silva,
Shiva, they take him out to like remote location. They tie him to a tree, and they like start interrogating him, and he keeps on about the mistaken identity, but then he admits that he is the guy, he did do it. And like if they're gonna kill him, like that'll just like make him a martyr. And so they're like, crap, what are we gonna do? Like they decide like because he caves and he says he's sorry and this and that, and he's only following orders, just trying to make a living, etc., etc. And so they're like, okay, we're not gonna be like this guy, we're gonna like let him go. And so they like leave him tied up to a tree, and they leave. And then there's like the end of the film is Vahid is like with his family, and then a car pulls up that looks like it might be Iqbal's, and then he goes inside, and then he hears like the squeaky prosthetic leg approaching. Ooh. The chills down my spine just thinking about the squeaking sound that the movie you hear in the movie as it like cuts to black at the end. But yeah, did I miss anything from the plot summary?
I mean, there's smaller details, but nothing big. No.
Yeah, like one of the people they pick up is like a loose cannon kind of guy, and everyone's like, they're like, he's definitely gonna know if it's him. But they're like, but also he's a loose cannon, and you can't trust him, and he like flips his shit, and they almost get like busted by the police because he's like having a meltdown inside the van. But he's like, this is definitely the fucking guy. Like, it's him. Like, we got to take him out. And they're all kind of like, let's pump the brakes, like, and think about this. And so he ends up one of the people who's like, I'm gonna walk away from this because like you guys are just not like putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, the only other side part that I would maybe include is Goalie's part, the bride to be, and how she is very bloodthirsty for vengeance, and tells and her fiance is like, let's go, and he keeps saying that, and she's like, absolutely not, we're doing this. And then she has this kind of confession about what happened to her when she was in prison, and it is just horrifying. So that's the only other thing, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, he seems like, let's put that in the past. Let's not dredge this up. Like, you've done the work. You've worked on this. Like, you've like tried to deal with this trauma. Like, why reopen this wound? And yeah. I mean, their whole plot line is stressful unto itself because they're dressed in their wedding clothes. Like they're taking wedding photos and their wedding is tomorrow and she's walking everywhere in her wedding dress, getting it like so covered in dirt and stuff. And you're just
and
like,
she's like vomiting in it. And,
right.
like, it's
Yeah.
dirty.
Oh, that's right. She does vomit. I forgot
Yep.
about that. Yeah. So it's like, whoa, what's the wedding going to be like tomorrow?
I know. Right?
Yeesh.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some ways, this movie kind of reminded me a little bit of Venora in that like it's like a dark comedy, but like it's kind of like the inverse. Like they've got the guy that they're looking for, and they're not like looking for somebody. But it's like similar in that it's like this like super dark comedy about people who would not be like normally thrown together, but are thrown together, and just like all kinds of like mishaps on the way to potentially doing or not doing whatever it is that they're planning to, this act of revenge against this guy who was horrible and tortured all of them.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I can see that. I got Ellie Fumbi's Our Father the Devil, where she thinks it's the woman who works in the kitchen, and she swears that the guy who's there is the
priest.
Man who Yes.
Who made her the child soldier and
exactly.
That was the other movie I was gonna say. I thought of that as well in this similar moral quandary that the character is in. Like she kidnaps this guy and then she's like, he's insistent that's not him, but I feel like it's him. And it's like it's really about like processing the trauma, deciding whether you can forgive this person or try to forgive this person. That whole part to the movie in this film where he's tied up to the tree is very emotionally intense. It's very captivating and emotionally intense, like it is in that movie. What was the name of it again? I keep forgetting.
Our Father the Devil.
Our Father the Devil. That's right. I was definitely thinking of that as I was watching this too. In the same way that when she kind of like, when it comes down to it, like, can I kill him or can I forgive him? Like the similar kind of, we've done terrible things have happened, but like, can I ultimately go through with it?
Right. And should I? And what happens if I do? You know, will that be the catharsis? I think it will be, so yeah.
So yes. What did you think?
Oh, I really liked this. I mean, I've seen Jafar Panahi before, and I mean, I find him utterly fascinating in that he's a filmmaker who is not allowed to make films in his country, and yet he continues to, and he smuggles out his films. And he just won an award at the Coolidge Theater in Boston. And while he was winning an award at the Coolidge Theater, and he also won an award at the Gothams for best screenplay for this, while all that was happening, Iran put out another warrant to put him in prison again. And he's been in prison before. And he said very recently that I know many other Iranian filmmakers who have fled and who make movies. And he's like, I can't. He's like, I must always go back to Iran, which I find just utterly fascinating. And the fact that he is just very scathing, rightfully so, about the oppressive government. I thought this was a really fascinating film. It starts off incredibly slow, and that was a little bit hard. But once it gets going, like I feel like once they pick up Goalie and her husband, and then the loose cannon guy, and like kind of they're all together, thrown together. That's when I think the movie is for me, it was at its most fascinating and really compelling. And but then it also when they're taking the mother to the hospital with the daughter, like that is riveting. And like Fahid is so nice to the daughter, and it's like, this is awful because he's got the father in his trunk of his van, and here he is helping. And like, I think it's interesting though, because when he and Shiva are, there when they're interrogating him, at the end of the film, and he starts freaking out. He's like, you touched my wife, and he's like, no, of course not. I'm not you.
Yeah.
I'm not a monster. I helped your wife.
Right.
And so that's interesting that the guy immediately goes to something horrific because that's what he would have done.
Right.
And so he like gives away his character. But yeah, and then seeing that scene where Shiva's like, say you're sorry, and she's like screaming it, and he's screaming like, I'm sorry, and then he starts sobbing. Like, it's a fascinating thing. And then it's like, what do? Do you stoop to his level and become a horrible monster for vengeance, or do you let him go? And then he's not gonna go away, which at the end of the film, it's funny because I was thinking, because the camera, he never turns around, but he never turns around when he hears the squeaking. So I'm like, did he imagine it, or, was he really there? And so either way, I feel like either he was really there and so his life is over, or he wasn't there and he's still haunted by this trauma. So either way, I feel like it works really powerfully. So yeah, I really, really liked this. I thought this was great. What did you think?
Yeah, I also thought this was really great. I agree with you about it being kind of slow in the beginning. And I think maybe the pacing didn't always work for me in the movie.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. When you have the core group of people together, the drama, the interplay between the characters is like at its, I think, at strongest. And just all their different kind of perspectives on it, even though they've been through similar trauma, they have different ways they've all been kind of coping with it and working through how they want to handle the current dilemma that they're all in. And so I found that all really compelling. And the whole subplot about them, driving to get his wife and bring her to the hospital. Like, and when they get there, they're like trying to drop her off, and they're like, "Oh, we need her husband here." And they're like, "You need to get this woman medical attention, like right now. Like, you need to figure out a way to do this without her husband here." And I just thought that was all, and then he's like going and getting donuts, and he's sitting with the girl, and it's like, if he truly was a terrible person, he wouldn't have done any of those things. But he's a good, caring person, and he's not gonna like punish them just because the father and husband is a dirtbag. And so I think there's something really powerful about seeing him do all those things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think at the end, I agree with you. I think it works either way. If it's something that's really happening, or if it's something he's imagining, because you could see like he's so conflicted about letting him go, because he's like, this really can come back to bite me in the ass. And you could totally see it being like the kind of thing where he's just for the rest of his days like haunted by this and looking over his shoulder, and maybe he's just imagining the squeaky leg, like maybe it's all in his head. And the way that it keeps going even after like it like fades to black, I think even like before we even get to the credits, we like still hear the squeaking for like another like moment or two. It's like, oh my god, it's like, it's just so creepy. It's such an unsettling end to the movie.
Yeah, it's like the most tense like final like 2 minutes of any film. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. Oof. I'm creeped out now just thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, I think that just speaks to how effective it is as an ending. This is also just a really brilliant premise for a movie, as I think as we've revealed through our discussion of it, and its parallel to My Father the Devil, right? Was that the name of it?
Our Father the Devil.
Our Father the Devil. Yeah, I mean, there's great parallel with that as well. I think it's a really compelling premise, this idea that like this figure, this abuser from your past is like resurfaced, and like how do you, like, of course you want vengeance, but like, should you go through with it? Like, is it going to give you that catharsis? Is it going to irrevocably change you as a person in ways that you can't come back from? Yeah. That's great fodder for a movie. So this is great. This is a great movie.
Oh, and we should say that Dave also thought it was great too.
Yes, I was actually just
good.
I'd forgotten that, but I'm glad that you brought it up, because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that Dave did think this was a really good movie, and unfortunately can't hear his full thoughts on it, but yes, he wanted us to mention that for sure. Let's see, was there anything else you wanted to mention about the film?
The only other thing I think is, I mean, I think the performances are really good. I really liked the woman who played Goalie. I really liked her.
Yeah, she was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Hadis Pakbatan. I really liked her.
Yeah,
Or
she
Hadis.
was particularly good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. Performances all around were
Yeah.
really good in this.
Oh, I want to say something. Yes, I just thought of this because I thought of this right when we were watching. You weren't there with me, but you know when we were watching it,
The royal we were watching
the
this.
royal we, exactly. Because I was like, I was watching this by myself. What I obviously I don't like that a dog dies in the beginning. I will say though, you do not see a dog, so I was very grateful of that.
You hear it, but you don't see it, thankfully, yes.
One of the things I find really interesting about opening that way, because I'm thinking like, why are we opening the film this way? What is this telling us about this character, and where are we going on this journey? And I think it's, the mom is kind of like the daughter's beside herself, and she's like, I don't want to hear the music anymore. The dad killed the dog, and the mom's like, well, it was just an accident. Oops. That happens. Dogs are running out here and there's no lights. And and I was thinking about that, and like, okay, yeah, sure. But I'm like, the guy is not, he's not completely cruel about the dog, but he's also not really doing anything to comfort his daughter either.
Right.
So I'm like, this is really interesting, because I feel like, we're not seeing someone who's a complete monster, but also he's not really nurturing in that moment either. And so I find that really fascinating, kind of what we see of him later in the film at the end, because I feel like these little moments are the moments that reveal the characters' personalities and their mindsets. And so I think it's an intriguing way to reveal that family dynamic and that character.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the brilliance of showing and not telling, right? You have
yes.
Yeah, he hits the dog, and he kills the dog, like, to not let it suffer, which is definitely says something about him as a character. But like you're saying, it also says a lot about how he has a kind of like neutral reaction with his family, but also it says a lot about him that he is just like guy who could torture people, do and say these horrendous things, and then he's like, by all appearances, like a nice, normal family man. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's gonna put on music so his daughter can dance and have a good time, and like, he's got another kid on the way, and he seems like doting enough to his wife and his daughter, and it's like he's compartmentalized all these really terrible things that he's done, like even so much so that like he's denying it, up and down, until he like finally at the end is like, all right, I did it, that's me, like, and then he's like proud of it. You know what I mean? Like then he's kind of like proud of it for a minute. It's like, man.
But then you're totally right. But then he has that moment where he's like, when he says like to Shiva, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I said those things. I thought you were making fun of me, and I felt humiliated like when I was a kid. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah, people have some crazy justifications for
right? Like, you absolutely destroyed these people's lives, and that's what you're thinking about? Like, jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, people are dynamic.
They are complicated indeed.
But yeah, glad you brought up that intro, because you're right. It does say a lot about his character, because there are large portions of the movie where you're not interacting with him at all. He's like in a trunk.
Yes.
He's not even making noise. You're not seeing him in the trunk. You're not hearing him talk from inside the trunk. Like, literally, they throw him in a trunk, and then they drug him. Like, so then he's
Yes.
like knocked the fuck out, and like you literally don't hear a peep from him at all for
Mhm.
like most of the movie.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's do a recap. So Hamnet, you said you wouldn't recommend to people who can't handle the subject matter, but it sounds like you would recommend it
Yes.
if you're, you know, have eyes of steel. I don't know how to describe it.
Yes. Yeah. Like I know people who've read the book and
Yeah.
loved the book. So
Right.
I'm assuming if you know the story and you're
Right.
good with it, yes, you could. But yes, it's
Fans
a great
of the book.
Yes.
Loins that have been girded and are ready and prepared for the kind of movie that, yeah.
Yes.
And it sounds like an enthusiastic recommendation on One Battle After Another.
For me, yes. I don't know about you two, but yes, for me, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know. I think your mileage may vary. I'll say that. You know, I don't say that often, but I think there's definitely some moments that I really enjoyed in it. And like I said, I really was locked into it, especially during like the car chase and all the stuff leading up to it was very intense. So there's definitely, I think there's something there. Even though like it's a bit of a mixed bag for me personally. And then it sounds like we would all recommend It Was Just an Accident.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that wraps things up for this episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. I want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clammer. Otto, thank you so much for making us sound so great week after week.
Thank you, Otto.
You can find the show anywhere you get podcasts. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can connect with us on social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, and we're over on Threads and Blue Sky also. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email, spoilerpiece@gmail.com. And if you like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us. You can go ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. It'll take you to your platform of choice. And I mean, that's the easiest way you can support the show is just write a good rating review that boosts our profile in the world. And you can also tell a friend about the show. That never hurts either. But if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. As I mentioned at the top of the episode, we talked about the winner of our summer movie in winter poll, which was the 2013 film The Way Back. We have weekly bonus episodes for $5 and up per month. You get weekly bonus episodes. You get to vote in monthly polls and, you know, hundreds of back episodes to explore. If you've listened to all of our 500 plus episodes of the show, that's a lot to think about at this point. So there's lots of good stuff there. And so if you're a patron, thank you. And if you're not, definitely think about it. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. And you can follow me on social media as Real Recon. That's real as in film reel.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I write and podcast for In Session Film. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast, member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Twitter at Opinion World or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion.
See you next week.
Bye.